introduce me or?
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Round two for this morning here. And Sasha, hi, with the Freebirds. And I'm here today with Leslie Truex. She is going to do, she's our work at home job expert. She's absolutely fantastic. So she's going to do a webinar with us today on working from home. So just as a quick recap, guys, this is our second session for today, and this is day 2 of our free to fly online conference and fashion show. So we're really excited, and thank you so much, Leslie, for being here with us. We definitely look forward to this topic. So what we'll do is I'll kick it over here to Leslie. She's going to show you her webinar. She'll explain more about her and what she's doing. And guys, don't forget that I can see you on YouTube Live, and I can see your questions as you send them in. So go ahead and shoot us questions as you have them, and I will make sure that they get used today. Otherwise, Leslie, please take it away. We can't wait.
Thank you so much, Sasha, and I want to thank Patricia, too, for having me here. And I apologize if I seem non-tech savvy. I've actually been using the computer a long time, but I don't do a lot of webinars, and you're going to discover why, probably. My slides are not very exciting, but we do have a lot of information. They cover a lot. I did send in a handout before. Maybe you already have it. If not, I can make arrangements to get it to you. But we will cover a lot of information about work at home jobs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my slideshow, and hopefully everything will work out. If you have questions, write them down. I'm going to try and leave enough time at the end to answer any that you have, but we do have a lot of material to go through, so I like to get through it so you have everything that you need. When you leave today, hopefully you'll be able to start searching for jobs and start applying. So let me go ahead and make that switch real quick. All right, so here we go. Just a little about me, not too much, because it's, you know, you don't care about me, but you might want to know just how I know what I'm talking about. And I was a mom in the 90s who wanted to work from home, and I found ways to do that. I found a lot of ways to do it. And in January 1998, I discovered one of my pieces of software allowed you to build a website. So I built a website called workathomesuccess.com. And of course, at that time, there wasn't a lot of work at home jobs. The site also covers home business and other things. But since 1998, things have changed. There are a ton of jobs out there. And so for all these years, Work at Home Success has been increasing the number of jobs that you'll find, work at home information out there, money-making opportunities, home business, all that kind of stuff. I also do a lot of writing. I have a website about how to make money writing, particularly on the internet. I am the home business expert over at The Balance, which is the former home business at about.com. And I've written a couple books about working at home. The two that are targeted towards work at home jobs would be Jobs Online, which is in print and ebook. And then the online job resource is really like a condensed version. It doesn't have maybe a lot of the details you would want about how to get a job, but it has all the resources that a lot of people want. And in terms of my working at home, I've done a lot of things, and I still do some adoption social work. I still do help a few clients with websites. I write. I do have a writing job. So I've done a lot of different things. I did sales and I hated it. Today you'll discover that there's a lot of different ways to find a work at home job. So let's really get started with what is telecommuting. And basically telecommuting is working a job somewhere other than the main job site. That can be at home. It could be a satellite spot. It could be on the road from a hotel room. We're going to be focusing on the jobs that can be done at home. Or maybe, I don't know who's on this call, but I do have a lot of baby boomers that come into Work at Home Success, and they want one that they can do from their RV, which also would be telecommuting. So many of these are kind of portable, which is really great. Let's talk about some of the stats, and hopefully you have all these. And like I said, it's not very exciting to look at, but if you read, you'll see that telecommuting is growing. When Yahoo brought their telecommuters back, there was this idea that maybe it wasn't growing, that it was going to kind of go away. But the truth is a lot of companies are using telecommuting. There's a lot of newer companies that are 100% virtual. So it is growing, and I have some information here. You can see, what is their education level, what is their income, where they're working, for-profits, nonprofits, government agencies. So pretty much it is everywhere. And let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about the fact that there are telecommuting jobs everywhere. These work-at-home jobs, they're so easy to find. I get emails all the time like, I can't find a legitimate job. And usually if they can't find the jobs, they're looking for the wrong jobs in the wrong places. So what we're going to be talking about is the wrong jobs, ones you don't want to look for, and how to find the right ones in the right places. I'm going to start with things that you need to avoid, because either they're not a job, and by job I'm talking about employment. It could be contract employment, but I am talking about something that is regular and steady. For the most part. So I'm not talking about business opportunities. I'm not talking about wackadoodle plans to make money doing nothing. I'm talking about employment. So envelope stuffing, assembly work. You always want to be aware of any job that is listed as typing and data entry, although typing and data entry might be part of the job. You want to be careful because many scammers use these terms to promote their scams. Email processing basically is an online version of envelope stuffing. Rebate processing, I'm not seeing those as much anymore, but that's a deceptive scheme to get you started in affiliate marketing, which affiliate marketing is a viable way to make money, but it is not rebate processing, and it is not a job. Payment processing or check processing. Any company that asks you to use your bank to help it do business, which would be payment or check processing, you don't want to do that. Not only is that a scam, but if you could end up in jail if your bank decides to turn you in for cashing a fake check, which is what those are. You could end up in trouble. So don't allow any company to use your personal bank account to help it do business. Anything that asks for money to hire you. So this is send me 20 bucks and you can work for me. That is going to be a scam. The only exception would be many companies are passing along the fee for a criminal background check on to applicants. You can pay for that. You can also pay for quality services, whether that's having somebody make you a really great resume or access a legitimate database, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Those are okay, but anybody that says send me money and you can work for me, that is not a job, and it very likely will be a scam. Surveys on mystery shopping, those are fun. You can make mad money, you can get free stuff, but it's not employment. So if you're looking for a way to pay the rent, to buy your groceries, surveys and mystery shopping are not it. What's really important to remember is that you are not simply going to sign up for a job. A lot of people go to the internet and start typing and working at home, and they look for things that they can sign up and do. I belong to this Facebook group where people can post work at home stuff, and I'm getting ready to leave because nearly everything that posts there is stuff that's like, sign up for free and you can get $700 this week and all that. And those are all just scams and schemes. If you need regular, steady income, to support a livelihood, or maybe you just want it to help pay off debt or whatever, those are not it. You're not just going to sign up for a job. They are like traditional jobs. You're going to have to apply and show that you have the skills to do the work. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the common jobs that I find. Now, these are not all the jobs that I find. There's many, 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 many more, but I want to let you know some of the areas where there are lots of jobs out there. Customer service, a lot of places, Capital One, Home Shopping Network, all those places use home-based workers to take orders, to process customer complaints and all that kind of stuff. Transcription, this is legal transcription, medical transcription, and general transcription. Also throwing captioning in there is another one that's growing. Virtual support, which can actually encompass a lot of things, but if you are a good administrative assistant type person, that might be for you. Translation, if you know foreign language, there's a lot of translating jobs out there. Teaching and tutoring. There are a lot of teaching jobs online, and these are regular jobs. Tonight in my newsletter, a music teacher job. that is done through the internet is going out. So there's a lot of those as well. Writing, particularly writing content and copywriting, graphic and web design, PR and marketing, social media management, nursing, a lot of nursing jobs out there, bookkeeping, and of course there are many others. Like I said, in my newsletter tonight, I've got some that include online moderator, others an online librarian, so there's others as well. So let's talk about how do you go out and actually find and get hired to a job. Now, if you think about if you were going to go out and get a regular job in the regular world, most people do that. They might go online, but they get the newspaper or whatever, and they open it to the job section. And do they read every job listed in the newspaper? No, they don't. They tend to veer in on the categories that they know they have the skills and experience to do. It's the same thing when you do a work-at-home job. You don't just go to Google and type in work-at-home job and see what you can find to do. It all starts with what you have to offer an employer. What is your education? What is your work experience? But also don't forget to include any volunteer experience. One of the things about work-at-home jobs is you can actually translate duties from one job over to another job. Or a volunteer experience. Let's say you ran the newsletter through someplace that you volunteer at, or maybe you manage their blog. That is experience that could translate to a job. What skills do you have from a job or not from a job? Even your hobbies and interests can be turned into a job. For example, if you know how to write, there's a lot of places out there looking for people to write in interesting areas. I've seen jobs for chocolate, people who can write about chocolate. I know about.com hires a lot, and recently they had somebody that could make recipes. So if you are really good at making recipes, that might be something for you. So write it all down, and really think about also the duties you do in your job. So for example, you might have a job doing one thing, but the duties within there might be able to translate over into another type of job. And the example I'm going to get is my background is in social work. I started in adoption social work, where I work with a lot of families. I do a lot of assessments, but there was a period in my life where I got a job in public health. But that job, I was still working with families and doing assessments. So it was kind of two different jobs, but taking the duties of one into the other. If you were bookkeeping for a lawyer, you might be able to also, switch that over and bookkeep for another small business person. So think about the duties that you do that might be able to move from what you're currently doing or what you have done, moving into a different job. You want to look at specifically your skills and things that can be done from home. So if there's a lot of computer related things that you were doing or phone related things, pretty much those can be done from home. And then think about what are the jobs that require the skills that you have. And I've given you an idea of some of the jobs that are out there. So let's say you work in retail. Let's say you were a cashier. You could easily move into customer service done from home. It can be done from a phone. And as long as you have a good phone and a good headset and you are good with people, that would work for you. Step 2. All right, the next step is actually looking for jobs. You have a sense of what you can do and the types of jobs that need them. So there are basically 3 different ways to find jobs. One is to use general job search sites, and these are like Career Builder, Craigslist. I also want to throw out Indeed.com. I actually am using Craigslist less and less, although you can find work-at-home jobs there, and I'm using Indeed.com, More Simply Hired, Monster.com. There's a whole bunch of them. The advantages of these resources is, 1, that they are free. 2, they actually do have a lot of jobs that can be done from home. And depending on what you're using, for example, Career Builder and I think Indeed.com and those can offer email alerts. So when they know the types of jobs you're looking for, they can email you when a new one comes up, which is really, really important, because getting your resume in fast is crucial to having somebody take notice and get back to you. The cons to these is that some of them will have scams. You will find scams on Craigslist. They might have business stops or other strange opportunities that really aren't jobs. Depending on the platform, you might get spam or scam in your email. For example, scammers might search the Career Builder resume thing and email you that they have a job. And what I want to say about that is nobody out of the blue is going to email you a job. Okay, employers do not have to reach out. They do not have to search for you. Okay, so if you get an email out of the blue, hey, we got a job, you want to be very suspicious of that, and I would actually say you should probably delete it. Now, an email in response to a specific job that you applied for, that would be different. When you're searching these general job search sites, you want to use keywords such as work at home, and you want to use work at home in quotes. Telecommute, some other great words are virtual or remote, sometimes freelance can work. The two I use most are work at home and telecommute. The thing you need to also recognize is that the search results that come up will also include jobs that say this is not work at home or this is not telecommute, so you do have to read the job carefully. But those are the best ways to pull out those jobs on those sites. And then, of course, you have to eliminate any jobs that ask for money or that are on the scam list and be very careful. The other option is to use telecommuting databases. There are only two out there that I have ever used and recommended over any period of time. The pros them is that they only list work at home jobs. They actually screen, so you can feel pretty safe in using them. You can zero in on jobs very, very quickly. Some offer email alerts and other bells and whistles that you can use. The disadvantage of them, of course, is that it does cost money. One of them is so cheap. It's less than 20 bucks and you can access it as much as you want forever and ever. The other one you can buy monthly or you can buy a 6-month or year. But so that, paying money for a lot of people, that's really hard. And you're saying to yourself, but she just said don't spend money to get a job. And that's true. But you can pay money to access a service, which is what this is. If you have limited skills, if you're like, I just want to sit home and type, these places will have some transcription type jobs, but you might want to start with the free resources first until you get a sense of what's out there before you invest in a database, because you don't want to invest in a database and then just not have any options that are good for you. These are very easy to search since they're all work at home and flexible jobs. You just need to go to the categories or the job title that you're interested in. I do want to mention freelance sites because there are freelance contract jobs. There's actually a lot of them, and many of them can be ongoing. But the other advantage is that freelance sites are a great way to increase your skills and experience and also get references and referrals. So if you're thinking you want to be a virtual assistant, let's say, but you don't maybe have the experience of doing it virtually and online and all that kind of stuff, a freelance site, you can take on some projects and get that experience, and that person might hire you to stay with them regularly, or at the very least you'll have the experience and hopefully they will give you a good reference and maybe even a referral. Of course, the problem is some very often are time limited projects. They do tend to pay less, and you may have to bid for work, which is kind of a bummer because it's hard to compete. And on those, again, you search by category or job type. Okay, so step 3, we're going to actually go out and apply to these jobs. The reality is finding the jobs is pretty easy. It's getting the job that is a challenge. So let's first of all talk about what happens when you see a job announcement. The first thing you need to do is determine, is it on the list of something that Leslie at Work at Home Success is shady, okay? And if it is, you can immediately eliminate it. For example, does it ask for money? And of course, paying for a background check is okay. The other thing to look at is it actually describing a job. And I think you know what I'm talking about here. There's a lot of work at home things out there, and they spend a lot of screen space telling you all sorts of stuff, but you come to the end of it and you don't actually know what the job is, okay? Work at home jobs have the same types of descriptions that you're going to see in traditional jobs. So they're going to have a job title. They're going to tell you what the job entails in terms of duties. They're going to tell you what requirements they have of you. So that's what a real job description looks like. And then as you're looking at it, you have to determine, do you have the skills, do you have the requirements, and do you have the equipment? Because not all these places are going to give you the equipment to do the work. Do you have to have every skill and requirement that's on the list? Not necessarily. You need to have the important ones for sure. But if you don't have every, some of these places have a list of like 10 things, and you may not have them all, but you would have to have the important ones that they wanted. I'm of the mind that even if you're not sure, go ahead and apply because, they might decide they like you. And it's only a few minutes out of your way to do it. The second part of step 3 is to do a little background research on the company if you can. Does it have a street address, a legitimate website, and an email? That again is just to kind of help you make sure that this is a real place. What does it do? What is this company all about? So if you go to a website like Language Line and you look at it and they're hiring interpreters and translators, it's pretty clear they do interpretation and translation. A place might be looking for a virtual assistant, and it might be a realty. Okay, so in that case, they're working to help people buy and sell homes. What is the market? Who do they cater to? Who do they do business with? And what industry is it in? For example, financial, real estate, all those types of things. This is going to become really important when you come to do your resume and apply, and I'm going to tell you about the reason why that is. And I know this seems like a lot of extra work, but it could be the difference between somebody noticing your resume and somebody not noticing your resume. And you are competing with hundreds of people for each position you apply to. So any little thing that you can do to stand out from everybody else is going to be crucial. And knowing this information is going to help you with that. So now let's go ahead and talk about the resume, because you have one chance for the person not to hit the delete button or to pass by, if it's an online application, what you have submitted. So the resume is critical. Now, most people use a resume as a list of stuff they did, but you really need to think of it as a marketing document. That doesn't mean you have to use hype and, oh, wait, there's more type of thing. But marketing documents are all about providing value to the person who is buying. Right? So you have an employer who is looking to buy your services. So you need to present yourself in a way that completely fits what they're looking for, or as much as possible fits what they're looking for. And it's really about how you are fit for them, not how great you are. The first thing to do that is to match your skills with what the company says it needs. So if the company says, I need somebody who types 50 words a minute, you need to make sure 50 words a minute is in your resume, not just that you type fast or that you are a transcriptionist, but that you type 50 words a minute. Any duty that they are saying that they need that you do, because you don't want to lie, you want to make sure that is mentioned in the resume, because they're going to look for the person who best matches what they're looking for. So it becomes really easy to do that. You have a list of what you can do. You have the job application. I actually recommend starting out that people print out the job a description and circle the things that they're asking for that you know how to do, because it makes it really easy for you to zoom in and list those things in your resume. You want to tailor your resume to the specific job. Don't just do one resume and send it out to everybody. You need to look at what that job is looking for, the industry that they're in, the market that they're working with, and tailor your resume to that. So if you find a realtor who is looking for a virtual assistant and you once worked for a realtor, you would want to make sure that he knows that you understand the real estate industry, or she knows that you understand the real estate industry. So you want to make sure that it's a good a fit and that you have highlighted all the things that are important to them. Try to use active verbs. Active verbs are just stronger, make you stand out more. Follow directions. Now that sounds like a no-brainer, but a lot of people will do things to try and make themselves stand out that go against the directions, or they don't read all the directions and they do something like send their resume as an attachment. And if you don't know how to follow directions, you're not going to get a job. I mean, if the first thing that you do is you're not following directions, that does not bode well for the quality of employee you will be. So read the entire thing carefully, highlight or circle or make a note of all the important things that they want, because sometimes these jobs are going to ask you for things. They're going to ask you to go over and take a typing test. They're going to ask you to submit a writing sample. Depending on the job, they might ask you, you want to make sure that you've included all that stuff they've asked you to do. Follow the directions. Create a text-only resume for pasting in email and online forms. And that means if you're using a thing like Word or any word processing program, in the background, they might put in secret hidden characters that don't show up on your end, but they show up in an email on the other end. So I always recommend that you create your resume and use Word or something like that initially so you catch all the errors, but then paste it into something like Notepad or whatever the Mac version of Notepad is, that takes out everything, the bold, the indents, everything, and it looks boring, but you justify everything left. If you wanted to use bullets, don't use bullets, because this can come out on the other end weird. Instead, you might just put, type in the hyphen, space, and then your bullet type point. Again, it looks very, very plain, but it's a safer way to email or paste into an online form. Now, online, if they ask you to upload your resume, then you can use a regular resume. But if they're asking you to paste into an online form or to send within the body of an email, you want to make sure that you take out anything that could show up on the other end not looking right. Never, ever, 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 ever send your resume as an attachment unless they ask you to do so. Almost always it won't end up on the other end because they will automatically screen those out. Or again, if they do see it has come in as an attachment and they've told you not to do that, then they will say this person doesn't know how to follow directions. So never send your resume as an attachment unless they specifically ask you to do so. In your resume and in the cover letter, do give them your name and email. If you want, you can give them your phone number, but you don't need to include your social security number on your resume or cover letter. You do want to protect that now you will actually have to give it at some point when you're hired, just like you would do in a traditional job. You have all that crazy paperwork you have to fill out so that you can get paid and taxes and all that, but you do not need to give it out initially. So you want to protect it as long as you can. You want to protect it until they're either doing a background check or they have actually hired you. So let's talk a little bit about the cover letter that goes with it, because that is actually the first thing that they see. And generally it is given by email. If you can use the name of a company contact, that would be ideal. A lot of these job announcements don't actually have names in there, so you may not know that, but if you can get the name, that always looks so much better. Miss Smith or Mr. Jones or whatever, as long as you're sure that you're addressing the right person, again, is going to make you stand out. Mention the job you're applying to and where and when you learned of it. So you could say, I'm applying to the virtual assistant job I saw on Indeed.com on October 10th. Give a paragraph overview of the skills and experience you have that fits the job. And this is where you want to highlight the most important parts of what you can do with the most important parts they want in a job. So if they're saying, we're a real estate agency looking for a virtual assistant who is going to do our social media, for example, and you have worked for a realtor and you've done social media, you definitely want a paragraph on that. Now, maybe, again, remember I talked about you may not have everything that they want, but you really want to focus on the things about you that are a best match for what they're looking for. And you don't want to write about everything. It's just a paragraph that highlights the most salient parts of what you can do and the value you can deliver them. And then you refer to the resume for more information. Okay. And then a short closing. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. You also do want to refer, my resume, per your instructions, the resume is in the email, and I always put it below my salutation. So wherever my name is, then the resume is below that. And any other supporting material they've asked for, you want to make sure that you have either a link to it, if they need a link, or that you've included it if they've included it. I can't tell you how important the resume is to getting a work at home job. It is really, really critical that you tailor it to the exact job. And let me give you an example, because I do still sometimes apply. It depends on what's going on. I'm a very eclectic person. I like to do a lot of different things. So once one type of job gets bored, a lot of times I'll move on to find something else. And I have a very varied background. So I'm able to pursue a lot of different interests. So if I am looking for a contract writing position for maybe a health and wellness site, that resume is really going to focus on my experience in health and wellness. I'm a certified fitness instructor. I have taught in fitness for X amount of years. I have written for Livestrong and all these other websites. And so I'm not necessarily going to leave out the fact that I have also a master's in social work and maybe some of my other jobs, but they're just really not going to be highlighted. In that resume, I'm just really going to focus on the stuff that a health and wellness website would want to know to make a decision about me. On the flip side, I have written for some places. I did a series of articles for one place on anxiety. So of course, when I was applying for that, I did focus on the fact that I have a master's in social work and that I have worked with people. And I did a lot of work, particularly with children, because this website was talking about anxiety in children. And less on the fact that I had a health, I may have not even mentioned that I had an AFA certification. So again, I have actually on my, in my computer, I have several variations of my resume. So I have, one for writing and health and fitness, one for writing maybe in family and mental health. And then I have some that aren't even on writing, but, might be most of the jobs I apply to now are in writing. But for example, let's say there was a social work job to be done at home and it really piqued my interest. I might apply for that. So I do have some sort of focused resumes, so I might have 3 or 4 on my website. And then if I see something that I'm like, I want to apply to that, I open that one and then I go in and I tweak it to make it fit even closer to the job that I'm applying for. So even though I have, 4 resumes that are geared towards certain skills and experience I have, even with those, when there's a specific job, I'm going to work to match what my past experience with what that job wants so that I have a fit. Because that's how you stand out. I don't know if you've ever been on the end where you have to hire somebody. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. After a while, every resume looks alike. So you have to make yours stand out. And one of the best ways to make it stand out is by being the best fit. And anytime you can use the employer's language that they use, because every industry has its own language. So if you're applying to a real estate firm, for example, they have clients and they have customers, and there's all sorts of real estate terms. If you know them and you can use them and understand them, and even some of them you will see within the job description that they're giving you, the job announcement, anytime that you can use those, the better. Because the more you can fit exactly what they're looking for, the better you're going to stand out for them. And they're going to say, hey, this person is exactly what we're looking for. So I can't impose on you too much on how important the resume is. It is the crucial reason why I get emails from people who saying they're not getting hired. And when we begin to talk about what's not working, they're sending the same resume to everybody. And these employers have people that are sending in higher quality resumes. And by higher quality, I'm not saying the person's necessarily more experienced or has more talent. They just have a resume that stood out because it was better geared towards what they were looking for. Again, if you think about marketing and if you think about the commercials and ads that you respond to, almost always they're going to be speaking to something specifically you want or need. And that's how your resume needs to talk to an employer, that you are speaking to a specific want or need that they have. So I want to mention before I go to troubleshooting one thing that unfortunately didn't make it onto your handout or into this slide, but I have mentioned it briefly before, which is that there might be interviews for these jobs. It depends what the job is, but they may want to talk to you. Some of them will do it by phone. Some of it will do it by Skype. I would be wary of anybody that wanted to do it through some sort of online messaging. I haven't really ever heard of or come across a legitimate job that uses messaging to interview people. It's always phone or Skype. Now, they won't always want to interview you, but you need to be prepared for that. So anything that you can do to get ready for it. And of course, part of it is you've already done in your resume. And you want to keep in mind when you're doing the interview, who is this company? Who is their market? What do they do? And anytime that you can tailor your answers to their specific needs, it's going to be better. So when they say we are looking for virtual assistant in a real estate office, I'll just stick with that. You want your answers to be specific to what a realtor might need as a virtual assistant, for a virtual assistant. The other thing is they might ask you to take a test. This would be particularly for transcription or captioning. So they will give you a typing test and they will grade you on your speed and accuracy. Both count. They might ask you to submit something. This is particularly for writing jobs. They may want you to submit a writing sample. If you already have writing samples, sometimes it's enough to just give them a link to something you wrote before. Other times they'll give you a prompt and they'll say, write us an article on this. Some of them go so far to say, give us sample titles. Sometimes some of these writing jobs are like, once they hire you, you kind of on your own for what you want to write and what you're going to do. If it's a web design, they may want to see your portfolio. This is where places like LinkedIn are really cool because you can store a lot of that stuff over there. And sometimes you can refer them to. Now, if they ask specifically, we want you to take this typing test or we want you to submit a writing sample, you want to do that. But it doesn't hurt to say, also, please check out my LinkedIn page. Or if you have a website, and it may sound weird to have a website when you're looking for a job, but it's an online resume, an online portfolio. And it's a great place to store information about you. And of course, if you have any crazy digital dirt out there, your pictures from Cancun when you're drinking shots, you don't want an employer to find that. You want them to find stuff that speaks to someone who's going to be a great employee. So having your own website or making sure from now on, if you're looking for a job, that your social media and all those types of things have content that wouldn't potentially upset an employer. And I know you're saying, well, that's my private life, it's not fair, but the reality is employers and colleges and all these places now are going to determine your character by the stuff that you're doing online. It's not fair, but there you are. So you do want to make sure that all that kind of stuff is cleaned up. But like I said, you can use them for tools as well. LinkedIn and having your own website, maybe even making a resume infographic. Those are kind of cool too. So let's move on to troubleshooting and talk about the other hard reality about work-at-home jobs is that a lot of times you're going to wait forever and sometimes you're never going to hear back. And it is so frustrating. I think it's ridiculous that many of these employers can't even just send you an email and say, thank you for your submission that we've already hired. But because you won't hear back, the one thing you don't want to do is just say, this is the perfect job for me and apply and then just sit back and do nothing and wait. Because it could be months, it could be years. The position I got at about.com, I had completely forgotten that I applied to it when they emailed and said, we want you to send us some more information about this. We're looking at hiring you. So you don't want to, you just can't sit back and wait, because you may never hear back. Now, if you are continuously searching and applying and you're still not hearing back from anybody, here are a few things that you want to consider. You can follow up with employers, because stuff does get lost. Sometimes, especially when a new job goes up, they're going to have a slew of submissions. But there's a couple things you want to do. First of all, you want to wait long enough that you don't want to email them the next day. You might want to give them up to 2 weeks before you follow up. Sometimes they'll say something in the job announcement about following up, and they might say don't call us, in which case you don't want to follow up, but they might say we plan to hire and start somebody at this time. So as that time came close, you might, and hadn't heard, you might want to email them. Make sure your resume is well written, well organized, no typos, make sure it's strong. Make sure that you have enough of the skills that they need for the job, particularly the most important ones. So if they were adamant that someone had to have 5 years experience in bookkeeping and you don't, you might apply for it if you have 3 years, but you might not hear back on that one. Make sure that you're searching and applying regularly, because the sooner your resume comes in, once a job is posted, the better. The more likely it will be seen. And also sitting around and waiting for a response is you wait forever for some of these. And don't give up. You've got to keep applying. I get emails from people, I've been doing this for a long time. Well, yeah, it's hard to get a job in the real world. It's hard to get a job in the work at home world. So you just got to keep on keeping on. If you make searching and applying for a job part of your daily schedule, you're already checking email and social media, I guarantee it, right? You can always find time for that. Am I right? You can find 30 minutes to an hour a day to go. You've bookmarked the sites, or maybe you have email alerts. The jobs are coming in. You scan them. Do I have what it takes? Yes. Open your resume, tweak your resume, submit your resume. Boom, you're done. Okay? So you just keep on keeping on until you get hired. So let me just tell you a little bit about where you can get some more information. This is my shout out to me, and then I'm going to answer questions. Workathomesuccess.com is a free resource. I got a free telecommuting job board there. I do send out jobs twice a week. One will be going out tonight, one goes out Friday. And generally, those jobs are seen in advance of them going to the job board. So if that's important to you. Plus, you're going to find lots of articles about work at home jobs, about home business, about quick income opportunities, extra income opportunities, all sorts of things there. The newsletter is free. It doesn't hurt to stop by and take a look. And if you do sign up for the newsletter, there are some extra goodies that come with that as well. And also just a quick shout out to my book, Jobs Online, which goes into more detail, everything that we've gone through today, plus includes over 400 resources for finding jobs. Many of them are places that frequently hire for work at home. So you're going to want to go ahead and check those out. So that's it. I'm ready for questions. Give me a second, and remember, I'm a little bit technically at a disadvantage when it comes to webinars. So I'm going to switch over and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic. I love the slides. I really appreciate you going through all of that with us. And I have no questions. So I really think that was fantastic. So now that I can see you've got your video back on, what I'll do is I'll open up the questions here with one of my own.
Okay, excellent.
There has to be some benefit to being the hostess with the mostest. And in this case, it's making sure I get my question answered. So one thing I was thinking, because I know that we were talking about really setting yourself apart with resumes, really making an impact, really making people notice you. What are your thoughts and opinions on, let's say, foregoing an actual formal resume and creating like a landing page resume. I've heard of a few people moving towards that kind of technique, and I'm just not sure what your thoughts are.
Well, when it comes to specifically applying for a job, you need to do whatever the announcement says to do. And at this point, most of them are saying, fill out our application online or email us your resume. So whatever they said to do, you want to do. You don't want to send an email and say, click here to see my resume, because you're asking them to do something extra, and that's not what they asked you to do. With that said, it does not hurt to have something like that. So when you do apply and you do everything that they said they told, you've included everything they've asked for, you can have in your signature line, visit my LinkedIn page or visit my website or, my info, whatever it is, you can have that, maybe in your signature line or something like that. You can share things. If you had a page like that, you could share it on social media and stuff. So it doesn't really hurt, because like I said, when they search for you and they're going to find it, they're going to be like, oh, that's kind of cool. And this person is serious about their career. But when it comes to applying, do whatever the job description or announcement says to do.
That's fantastic. And I really liked the tip, specifically about going and creating your resume in like Notepad. That's one that, oh gosh, I don't even know how many times I've run into that, where, load your resume, but that's going to make it turn into this big garble of stuff. Is there anything you recommend with formatting of a resume, more of that visual component that will be good for both types?
I'm a big believer in less is more. Because you don't want the employer to be distracted or make it hard for them to find what they need. So even my paper resumes or one that might be uploaded are pretty straightforward. Now I might have bullets in them, which, in my text resume, like I said, everything is justified to the left, and I might have use a dash for my bullets. Whereas my print resume, I might actually use the bullet function in Word to do that. So it's a little bit more indented, and that does help them read it better. But I wouldn't have all sorts of craziness. I would work to keep the resume down to a single page, because there is a limit to how much they'll read. So think in terms of ease of helping this employer determine that you are the best person for the job.
That's actually really, really helpful. Is there anything else? I mean, knowing now, okay, so a little bit of background for me. I used to do a lot of hiring and training. That used to be my big thing. And the landscape to get yourself hired used to be very, very different. Now, with everybody moving more to technological platforms, everything is by application, by submission. What would you say is the most important thing that you would need to do to really gain that attention when you're working with a very linear application process?
It all goes down to how can I make sure this employer sees the value I'm going to give them. So I'm not sure I'm answering, maybe I'm not even understanding your question. Most of the things I've applied for, it's through email or through an online application. And it might be an online form, or it might just say, click here to upload your resume. Okay. And so whatever it is, it's always about focusing on the easiest way to make them see I'm the best person for this job. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but.
It does, yeah, absolutely. Now, when you're dealing with submitting your resume, I mean, the resume is only half the battle, as you indicated, and you indicated that we need to try to schedule more follow-ups, make sure that you're staying on board with everything. How much is too much when it comes to follow-ups? Is there a standardized, hey, you should follow up every 3 days, or are you basing it off of some other sort of chart?
Well, again, you want to check to see what the job announcement has said, because some of them will say we're going to be hiring something by such and such date. So you might follow up sooner, and might have a second follow-up, even more sooner than that, depending on when that date is. Some of them are really open, and so to follow up quickly in quick succession, it might annoy them. And some of them will say, don't even bother contacting us, in which case if you contact them, you've already determined that you can't follow instructions. So you do need to, it does depend on the place that you're applying to. Some of them actually, particularly if they have online applications, you have to create an account kind of there. And you can go in and a lot of times see the status of your application there, whether it's been seen, whether they have questions. And of course, the answer to that is very easy. You just log in and figure out what's going on. My rule of thumb is usually, well, I want to say I'll give it a week or two, again, depending on the application. And then sometimes I'm, just like, well, never mind, and I may never again, or I might do it again in, the following month. Especially if I see the job is continually to be advertised. Although a lot of times they leave those things up. They don't think to go and take them down. But sometimes they do leave them up and they're still applying. So I might say, and I would let them know on such and such date, I submitted my resume for such and such job. And I just wanted to make sure that you received it. And, if you have any further questions or need anything further from me, please let me know.
No, that's perfect. Another question would be kind of along the same lines. Now, we know that follow-ups are good, all of that good stuff. So let's say somebody does follow up with you and they say, okay, we've chosen not to go ahead with your application for whatever reason. Another thing that I've heard recommended is to then follow up and say, what was the reason that you chose not to go forward? Now, I'm really of two minds on the subject. Do you feel that that's helpful? That's a hindrance? Is that worth your efforts or time?
Well, first of all, even when you follow up, you still may not hear back. And if they do follow up and say, we've already found, it depends on what they say. Sometimes they would say, we've already found somebody else, which could mean they didn't even read your thing because they found somebody, to fill the job. If they said, we've opted to go with somebody else, then I don't think it hurts necessarily to call. It really depends. They might see it as a ploy and you annoy them, but they're not hiring you anyway. So at this point, it doesn't matter. And they may not respond to you when you say, what was it? But if there was something in there that they could tell you that would be constructive, that doesn't hurt. But also think about this. If you are not getting hired or not getting respond back, you should reach out to somebody to look at your resume anyway to find out why that might be.
Awesome. Are there any tips now? I just came from a place Alberta, where, the job market isn't necessarily as strong as it is in other places. So you're fighting against a lot of different people, even and most especially for things like work at home jobs right now, because there's not a whole ton of work going around. So knowing that, is there any way that you can differentiate yourself?
Well, the better you can speak to what he wants, what the application or the announcement says, the better it's going to be. It's sort of like, in the business world, when we talk about marketing, we talk about always market the solution. People don't want a widget. They want whatever that widget does. And so you want to do the same thing in your resume. So if I see a resume, if I see a job application that says we're looking for somebody who knows about fitness to write articles for us, well, man, I'm going to say I've been in fitness. I'm an AFA certified instructor since 2001, and I've taught these classes, and I've written for these places, and I'm going to give them everything that shows that I can deliver what they want. And the more you can do that, because a lot of times in resume, and again, you got to keep it to a page, and so by using strong verbs, you can deliver exactly what they want without being too. And this is where bullets or lists can really help, because you don't want to overdo it as well. But again, you want to be specific to what they want. So if they say we're looking for somebody to do transcription, don't just put I did transcription from 2002 to 2010. You want to be really specific about the type of transcription you did, particularly if you did the type they want. You want to talk about how fast. So I might say, I spent 10 years doing transcription for X company, general transcription for X company, transcribing this type of note at this typing speed. I mean, again, it's about proving that you can do it. And most people are very generic. They just list transcription, 2 years. So again, if you can look at what they want and say, okay, this is the industry, this is the language that they use, this is what they're asking for, and your resume reflects that honestly, you don't want to lie, then you are going to stand out. But again, it's about getting in early as well, because they're going to get hundreds of applications, and this is why searching regularly, and if the place has alerts, signing up for them so you can get them quickly and get yours in before the 100, 200, or whatever other people are applying for them.
That's awesome. No, that's excellent information. Now, when you're working with a resume and you're sending them out, you said you wanted to make sure that you're, doing the resume, almost customizing each resume and each cover letter to each employer that you're submitting to. Now, what you've also indicated is that it's not very helpful to just blast out the same resume to 100 people all the time. Is there a way to mix, is there like a balance between efficiency and still being able to get there? Because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, I don't have time to write 500 resumes in a day.
Well, first of all, you're not going to be applying to 500 jobs in a day. Depending on what you're doing, there may only be a couple a day. The second of all, as I already mentioned, I have a template. So I just go in and pick, okay, this is a health and wellness company. Where's my health and wellness resume template? And then I go in and tweak it. And a lot of times that's just a few minutes, and then submit it that way. The other thing is you can, like we already said, have like the resources you have online are going to be sort of generic. So they will be there. So if you go ahead and use Career Builder services to host a resume there, that one is going to be, much more generic, which could work against you in some ways, but at least it's there. Or if you have something over at LinkedIn, you have that there. But I really, I really feel like in this competitive market, the better that you can connect with the employer, the better your chances are going to be. And I really feel like it's worth the time. And the way to make it efficient is to have the template. And again, if you're applying for different types of jobs, if you're applying for virtual assistant and customer service, then you have two templates. You have a virtual assistant template and a customer service template, and then you tweak those. If you're looking for customer service, and some of them are for airlines or travel, and the other ones are for online stores or something like that, you might have two resumes for that. So now all you have to do is go in and tweak the one that's geared towards the store. That's really the way. But you're probably, if you give yourself an hour a day to do it, I don't think you'll have more jobs than you could do.
Thank you very much. Well, it looks like we are just about at our hour marker. So what I'd like to do is, if you don't mind, just kind of running everybody down how they can find out more about you, more about your products or services. So a little shameless plugging, that would be absolutely wonderful.
Okay, well, again, if you go to workathomesuccess.com, you're going to find a ton of free information and resources over there. We've got a telecommuting job board there that you can search for free. And we have jobs going up there every week. My email list is free, and there's some cool goodies, including a list of companies that frequently hire in there. But I also have some books. If you go to Amazon.com and type in my name, you'll see, the jobs online and the job resource. If you're interested in writing, Digital Writer Success is my most recent book, and it talks about how to write online and make money. But Work at Home Success, pretty much everything's there. Anything you need to know about me or learn about working at home is over there. I'd love for you to come by, check it out.
Absolutely fantastic. And thank you to all of our wonderful viewers. We've had quite a few people flittering in and out the entire time. Thank you so much, Leslie, for being here today and for gracing us with some fantastic information. We really, really appreciate it. And to all of our viewers out there, don't forget, this is only day 2 of our month-long Free to Fly conference and fashion show in support of domestic violence survivors. Again, I'm Sasha, and hopefully you can catch us tomorrow for some more amazing seminars. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.